in a situation like this, a good intro would have been to like sing a song from the movie, but I don't remember a single song from the movie because the music's not memorable.
Whatever. One song's great.
What is it?
Hold on. Give me a sec.
So memorable.
I would rock out to it in
tunes.
the car. You just put me on the spot. Sorry. Oh my gosh. You're right.
Welcome everyone to Afterthoughts. This is a podcast where we rewatch movies, we compare our first and second impressions of those movies, and then discuss a related topic. My name is Joshua Kazemi, and I'm here with my co-host, Cole, the Coleman, Taylor Thomas.
Yes, you got it all. And that's me.
I remembered it. Boom.
Boom.
This week, we are talking about 1997 classic. I'm going to say that, even though I may not agree with it.
Wow, that's rude. It is a classic.
I know, and I say it's a classic regardless of my opinion of it. We're talking about the 1997 classic, Anastasia.
Jeez, you're already giving too many spoilers away for this episode.
I know, but there's plenty to say, so we'll get into it. Before we do that, though, I honestly think I'm gonna need this time. Usually I know what the plot of the movie is, but I feel like me, along with our audience, I need a refresher of this plot. If you would go into detail, what happens in this movie?
So the plot of this movie is that, just like the actual historical, so to say, accuracy. Oh, that's not even how you say that. Whatever. So just like in real life, let's put it like that, the Roman family is attacked, and they're all killed. And I'm pretty sure that it wasn't Rasputin, but I guess there's a ton of controversy around this whole thing. The people thought it could have been Rasputin because he's like this holy man that's mystical, whatever. In this movie, it's Rasputin, kills them all, but not Anastasia, and she gets away, but loses all her memory of being Anastasia. And then her grandmother, specifically, is looking for Anastasia because she knows she's alive. But Anastasia doesn't remember she's Anastasia. But this other guy, Dmitri, I think is his name, is trying to get rich by finding Anastasia. And he finds, lo and behold, Anastasia. But she doesn't remember she's Anastasia. So he's going to take her and convince her grandmother that she is Anastasia to get a bunch of money. So he tries to give her a bunch of facts about Anastasia because he was a little boy at their palace, and so he actually knew the real Anastasia, and feeds her all these facts. And then as time goes on, he finds out that she really probably is the real Anastasia. And they're also, I forgot this part in the beginning of the movie. So Rasputin dies trying to kill them all, but he's like already sold his soul to the devil or whatever he's done. And so he comes back to life about halfway through with his little evil bat Bartok, and they're also pursuing this couple. And so this couple's trying to make it back to Anastasia's grandmother to convince her that she's Anastasia while being chased by Rasputin. And then it turns out she is the real Anastasia. And I think she figures out around the same time she tells her grandmother. But then Dmitri feels really bad for having used her, so he doesn't even take the money and he walks off. And Rasputin catches up to him, and that's about as much as I'm going to tell of the plot because I butchered it so bad. But that's fine.
I think you did a fine job. I think that works. So I don't remember if this is the first time. I feel like you might remember this. I think this is, if not the first time, maybe the second or third time that I don't have a single note for this episode.
Nice.
I usually take lots of notes, and for this one, I've got nothing. So I'm just going to, off the top of my head. And so first I want to say, this is a movie that for the longest time, I think I saw it when I was very young, and I didn't remember it. And then growing up, it was kind of one that I was like, oh yeah, Anastasia, I need to rewatch that. So at some point I did, and still didn't really retain it. And so for the longest time, it's always just been this movie that's like, I don't really remember it, and so I don't really have a strong opinion of it one way or the other. So yeah, that's where I was starting off. I was interested in picking this movie for this week because I wanted to finally sort of like grasp Anastasia and have an opinion on it. So that's what I was going into this movie with.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I watched it as a kid because it was one that people went and saw. I'm pretty sure I saw it in theaters, I think.
Nice.
I really can't remember. It was so long ago. But I remember a lot of people enjoyed it, but I couldn't remember what myself. I think I just latched on to the fact that other people enjoyed it and thought in my head I enjoyed it. But I didn't remember much about it. I remember it being different, and I remember it being quite darker than anything else that was out around the time, especially with the whole Rasputin stuff. Although I couldn't remember specifically, I just remember it was like a bunch of magic, mystical stuff, his body falling apart, things like that. I remember that being weird, but it's kind of in the same boat. I hadn't watched it in years, and I only ever saw it when I was a kid. And I didn't remember really what the plot was either. I did remember she couldn't remember she was Anastasia, but that was it.
Yeah. And it's this weird thing of like, I feel like Anastasia is beloved. I feel like there are lots of people that really love the movie, but at the same time, it was never, ever a movie that any of my friends ever wanted to watch. Like in a group setting or anything, no one ever suggested it. We never rewatched it. You know, it was just like, I don't know. It's like this movie everybody was like claimed to really love, but never wanted to watch. Which was always interesting to me. Like maybe it's this movie that's just in everybody's collected memory as like a really great movie. But when was the last time you saw it, kind of a thing?
Yeah. I feel like it's because it was back in like the golden age of like Disney 2D animation and not the golden age, whatever age it is. And we just had all of these coming out, but this one wasn't Disney, and I just remember it being very different. It stuck out, and I see why now. It's because the animation is so different than so many of the others that came out. And I think that's why it stuck in my mind so well. And I think it's why it's so memorable, because I don't think many people remember what it's about either. I think if you ask most people what Anastasia is about, they can't tell you. I think it's just memorable because it was so different.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I think that's a solid point of like, you know, obviously there's a fleet of Disney movies, and you know which ones are Disney. They sort of go hand in hand. And when you're talking about Disney movies, you rattle off a short list, or, you know. But for Anastasia being sort of, like we talked about it a couple weeks ago, a quote-unquote third-party animation that's not Disney or DreamWorks, it's harder just because not everyone's sure which movies those are. You know, you have to, that requires like a Google search, you know? So it makes sense that you might remember a long string of Disney movies or DreamWorks movies, and one like Anastasia pops out because it's just one. It's not one in a sea of many movies, you know? It pops out because it's different.
It's like one of the like 2 animated movies by Fox, right? Am I right?
Yeah, what's the other one?
Titan AE, come on.
There you go.
Classic.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, man. Those are both like very interesting movies. Like honestly, if I was Fox and those were 2 movies under my belt, I would be strangely proud of them.
Me too.
You know, like at least you made some interesting movies.
Mm-hmm. And I think they took risks with them. I think one of the main differences is just how real I'd say that people look. If you look at Disney cartoons, they're very, very cartoonish. While in both this and Titan AE, they're more realistic. Even though
and that's very intentional on Disney's part.
Yeah,
absolutely. So that's a smart move for Fox to say let's do something different and make them more realistic characters.
And I think it at least paid off for Anastasia. I don't know about Titan AE because, you know, no one likes it, but whatever. But I mean, at least people remember this movie. I would say a vast majority know what Anastasia is, outside of the whole historical person in real life.
Yeah, I think probably more people know of this movie than know that she was a real person.
That could be true. I just hope not.
Man, okay. Do you have any other thoughts? Any other first impression thoughts?
No, these ones are always hard. I think
Yeah.
Chicken Run was kind of in the same book, just having not seen it in so long.
Yeah,
But yeah,
definitely.
let's do it.
All right, so let's go on to seconds. Did it hold up? What'd you think?
It was all right.
Yeah.
One thing, and it's gonna be hard. This is gonna make this episode more difficult. It didn't hold my attention that well.
Boom. Same here. But go ahead.
I mean, that's really like, I kind of watched them go from point A to point B, and it just really wasn't that exciting. I don't know.
Yeah, and then in the middle of point A and B, there's like a 45-minute montage. What feels like?
That's true.
Right?
Yes.
I don't understand.
What was that?
I don't know. My gosh. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah. No. I was disappointed for sure. I don't think it held up for me at all. And there's lots of stuff I want to talk about. I don't know where to start, but that's a good point. Definitely, it was hard. It didn't keep my attention well. And I was sincere earlier when I wanted to be refreshed about the plot, because I realized before we started recording, like, I don't really remember even now what happened or the order of events. So, yeah, I don't know what exactly where it lacked in terms of like trying to keep your attention. I guess, yeah, maybe just not enough stuff happened.
Yeah, I would agree. It's, I don't know. There's like a boat scene.
Mm-hmm.
Where she almost dies. They're like traveling together. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just a jumbled mess of stuff that happens.
Yeah, yeah. And the fact that it's a musical with music that after 20 years I can't retain it, you know? And I feel like it's not that the songs are bad. Let's flat out say that. I don't think the songs are bad. But I think maybe that they're not utilized well within this movie. Like, I noticed, so there's a song that she sings after she gets out of the orphanage and she's like on her way, and then maybe like a minute of screen time after she's done with that song, she sings another song. Both are solos, and they're very similar songs. And she sings a second song when she finally reaches the palace or whatever. And so for me, it was just like, how are you ever going to distinguish the two? Or I just feel like, imagine if there was another solo song in The Little Mermaid after Part of Your World. It's like, it would take away from Part of Your World.
Yeah.
Because they're just too similar and too close together. You know? And so stuff like that made me think, like, maybe this just is a musical with great music that's just not super well structured.
And I think just so much of the middle of them, kind of what you're saying about the montage, but just it's so much of her just remembering who she is and them just going. Like, not a lot actually happens. I'd say the chunk that happens is mostly just at the end, and by then it's kind of too late. Because it's really just them literally going. Like, nothing really happens on the way. Yeah, Rasputin tries to stop him a few times. And yeah, she has a few memories that she remembers. But nothing that exciting happens along the way.
Right. Yeah. And Rasputin sort of, like, drops off the map, right?
Yeah.
Like, he just kind of disappears until the last couple moments of the movie.
I know.
And it's bizarre. Like, where does he go?
I mean, he is dead, so...
I know, but the movie, I mean, you can write whatever you want. This is a movie that took a lot of liberties with what actually happened. You know, it's the whole movie is made up.
Yeah.
So make stuff up. Like, they should have created a way for him to interact in the real world more. You know, like he tries to kill them, doesn't work, and then he pops back up at the very end.
Because it just feels like they're going to me. Like, usually the journey is just a important part of the movie and like what drives you to the end and what makes the end so great. But it feels like the middle for this, the journey is just them getting to the end rather than like stuff happening and driving you to the end. I don't know. I can't. It's hard to explain that. It feels like it's point A and it's point B, and that middle part is them just like moving there, rather than any
Like there's
kind
not
of character stuff happening.
conflict. Yeah. And in the plot itself sort of feels like a rom-com, you know? It's like every rom-com you've ever seen of like, oh, I'm sorry that I was using you, but I not anymore, and now I really do like you, you know? Like, come on. And I guess it was 97, but still, you know, in this regard, maybe it was okay then. It has not held up well now.
Yeah. I wonder if I would watch it, like, I wonder what it would have been like to watch it as in my kid mind again. I wonder if as a kid I would have liked it.
My kid mind really liked the bat.
Bardock, whatever his name is.
Played by Hank Azaria. Yeah, because he's hilarious.
Nice.
What else did my kid brain like? That's kind of it.
Wow.
My adult brain kept thinking, like, why does she have to pretend to be a princess? If you were missing for 10 years or whatever, no one would expect you to have learned to continue to be a princess on your own. So why does she have to learn the etiquette and all this stuff? It's like, I don't, there's that, and then there's like, why does she have to pretend to remember all these things? Why can't you just say she doesn't remember? Like, I don't know. I had all those questions, and it just felt like we were going through the motions.
Also, I can't even remember this. Why does she forget she's a princess? How?
I guess she hits her head.
She hits her head? Okay.
Or is it part of the curse?
I don't remember. I remember her chasing a train and not making it, and that's it.
Yep. Also, stop the train or get off at the next stop and go back immediately. Like, I guess it's not impossible to lose a child. Like, that's a thing that can happen, sure. But it just felt like, you know, the whole movie just felt like this is what's gonna happen. Just move past it.
No.
Don't think about it too much. Just move past it. Like, we have a story we want to tell, and we're going to tell it. So don't worry about it.
And just what does happen at the end still isn't that exciting. Like, Dimitri realizing what he's doing the whole time, I'm not like, yes! It's just like, okay, cool. You did it.
Yeah. Yep. Also, I don't understand why he doesn't, like, remember until the interview. Like, why is it... I don't get it.
I don't know. None of it makes sense.
Like, the revelation he has in that room, I don't understand his thought process in that moment.
Yet, after all this, I still don't think I'd consider this a bad movie. Which I guess we don't typically consider most movies bad movies. But I don't know. I think the risks they took and the differences they made and the timing of it, like, Disney was king during this time. And just what they even tried, I don't know, justifies it in my mind, even if I don't like it and I don't think it's a good movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Like, I think it's not a shame that the movie exists.
Wow.
And it is different, and there are certain elements about it that are worthwhile. But it's just, to me, like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just thinking of other third-party animation that were out there just, like, trying to keep up, and they're much worse than this, I would say. This at least, like, tried and gave a really good effort. A for effort. Mm-hmm. F for everything else. Execution.
A for Anastasia. A for effort. Oh, man. What a movie.
Would you ever suggest anyone to watch this?
No, I mean, no. If you want to watch something like Anastasia, watch a good version.
Wow. What does that even mean?
Because I feel like there are phenomenal kids movies out there. Ones that are worth anyone watching of any age at any time. So watch one of those. You know, it's like if you're running out and you're watching movies with a child and they've seen everything and they're looking for something else, then yeah, go for Anastasia. But if you're an adult with limited free time, I wouldn't waste it on Anastasia.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest watching Anastasia.
If you could only watch like 5 animated movies, you know, it wouldn't be close.
Not even.
There are just too many good ones out there.
Yeah.
I feel bad, though, because I know a lot of people really like this movie. But to all of you out there, when's the last time you saw it? Rewatch it.
It's the point of the podcast. I'd be interested, though. I'd be interested to hear from someone who did rewatch it and loved it, and I want to hear what they love about it.
Yeah,
that would be cool. Tweet at us.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think maybe the best part of the movie is Anastasia. Her as a character.
Yeah,
she's good. She's solid. She's like a well-rounded character, and yeah, she's probably one of the best characters in the movie.
I would say the best character in the movie.
The grandma's cool too.
Grandma is cool, but
and all the stuff about her refusing to meet with Anastasia, I understood that motive really well. To me that was crystal clear. It made sense. She would be fed up with it at that point too. Her reasoning was good to me.
Yeah. Even though you're just meet with her. It's the real her.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the best parts of the movie because of that tension. It is great because you're on both of their sides.
I know. But it's too late at that point. Mm-hmm. If they had stuff like that going throughout the whole movie, I think it could have been a great movie. But
exactly, yeah.
Since it's just them going to that point, as I've said 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like Mad Max Fury Road, except in Fury Road there's all these crazy action sequences to keep your attention. But in both of these movies, it's literally going from point A to point B.
You said, when you started to say that sentence, it's like Mad Max Fury Road, I stopped listening after you said that.
Oh, that's funny.
We're going to do that one for the podcast one day.
We will.
Yeah, laugh it up. Laugh it up.
Any other Anastasia thoughts?
Nope. No, that's about covers it.
Okay, all right. I'm going to read off our poll. Our
Read
trusty
it.
Twitter poll. So, I asked, what's the best animated movie of 1997?
Oh, no.
Yep. So, option A is Anastasia, because it's A, so it's the first one.
Okay, good one.
B is Hercules, also 97.
Mm-hmm.
Princess Mononoke.
All right.
And Cats Don't Dance.
All right.
Also released in 1997. Okay, so, as per usual, I want you to guess which one won.
Hercules.
Yes, it did. Correct.
Of course it did. Was that the only Disney one on there? I'm pretty sure it was.
I know, but I thought Princess Mononoke might give it a run for its money.
Oh, yeah, I bet you did.
Hercules was 50% of the vote. Anastasia was 33% of the vote. Princess Mononoke was 17%, and not a single person voted for Cats Don't Dance.
Of course they didn't. I mean, admittedly, Cats Don't Dance isn't that great anyways. It just has some really great parts in it. I've
never seen it.
Oh, gosh.
Never.
It's got some really good parts, but overall, I can see why people would not vote for it.
Sure. After seeing, now, I think I put out this poll before I rewatched Anastasia, but now that I've rewatched it, I really am kind of bummed that Princess Mononoke didn't come in second. I really like Hercules, but Princess Mononoke is a great movie too.
Well, I'm really bummed it didn't come first, because Hercules isn't that great.
For the podcast, we gotta do it.
I mean, what even really happens in Hercules? The best part's at the end.
It's all so good. You're crazy.
Whatever. It's a lot like Anastasia, really.
Phenomenal music. The Hercules music blows the Anastasia music out of the water.
Yeah, right. Name one good song.
I Can Go the Distance.
Ugh, that's the only good song.
I won't say it. That one that she sings. I don't know if that's the right title, but that song is great.
Exactly, because it's not that good of a song.
I Won't Say I'm in Love. I believe that's the full title.
Whatever.
Is it topic time?
Topic time.
Let's do it. Today we're talking about historical fiction.
Historical fiction.
A riveting topic time. I think it's going to be great.
So riveting.
So I'm going to go ahead and start with this. Another statement filled with controversy. I think that they should just stop making movies that are based on true events and just make documentaries.
So, like,
Just dropping
stop
down on the
making
floor.
movies altogether and just make documentaries? That's it?
No, make fictional movies, and adapt movies from books and stuff. Sure, but anything that's based on something that actually happened, just make a documentary.
Okay, but you're gonna have to elaborate on that. So, like, this should have been a documentary?
No, because this is purely fictional. Like it's just it's historical fiction in name only.
All right, so what about like Glory or like Braveheart?
Okay, so Glory is a great example because Glory is not. Those are all fictional characters, aren't they?
I would say they are. I think they are.
I think that they are.
I mean, not all of them. I'm pretty sure the captain isn't. I don't know about the people under him.
So, assuming that it's just historical context with fictional characters and plot, awesome. That's great because the historical context as a backdrop, that's an awesome thing. That works. But I've just thinking about so many movies lately that I've seen, like Everest and Sully and Concussion. These true stories with that have movies that are great for lots of different reasons, like great performances from Tom Hanks, Will Smith, everybody. Like they're great all around and they're solid movies. But every time at the end of each one of those movies, I just kept thinking like, the actual story is still more interesting than this movie.
Yeah.
Because I don't think true stories work well enough as movies, like plot-wise, structure-wise, unless they deviate far from it, like a movie like The Social Network.
No, I agree. Every time a movie comes out that is that based on reality or something that happened, like it's a true story, essentially, obviously there's always going to be liberties taken no matter what because they weren't there. But when it's specifically based on an event or something that happened in the like near past, I'm always like, not as interested to see that. I don't know why. It's just not as interesting. Like something that happened in real life. I agree. Since it's just a moment in time of like something that actually happened, you can't really, even if you can take some liberties, you can't take that much to make it like a well devised plot arc.
And I think there are good examples still, like of both. Like, I think that. Like you were mentioning before we started the podcast, like The Prince of Egypt or like the Hamilton musical, those are interesting because they're musicals. So there's this added element of like, well, obviously they weren't musical stories or whatever. That's this extra element that the stage production of Hamilton and the movie version of The Prince of Egypt could bring to the story. So in those terms, it's like they did something interesting and only something that those mediums could provide. So that makes the retelling of those stories worthwhile.
Do you think the more time has passed, the more likely you could be to enjoy it? Because most of the ones I'd say you listed are pretty close to around this time period.
That's true.
Because when it's so far in the distant past, you are pretty much required to take liberties because we just don't have enough information. So I'm wondering do you think that has any effect on whether you view these and which ones you think are better than others? How far in the past they are?
That's probably true because I really enjoyed Sully because it's Clint Eastwood and Tom Hanks, great people in those movies or working on those movies. But I remember Sully, like I was like old enough to remember that happening. I remember that day of high school.
Yeah.
And so that probably doesn't help me enjoy that movie if I remember living through it. Whereas older things, that I don't have like my own personal accounts of are probably better. Better to adapt. Like there should be like this like obligatory unspoken amount of years before you can tell a story.
Right. And I think it's just because as we've advanced as society, we just have better documentation of everything. When you go back far enough, it's just not documented as well. So you have bits and pieces here and there, but then you have to fill in the like gaps with what you're creating. And I think that works better than making a movie pretty much just a retelling of what actually happened because we have it so documented, so well documented now.
Yeah.
Like Braveheart.
But okay, so let's remind me of Braveheart. How much of that is fictional?
I mean, I think he took a lot of liberties.
Uh-huh.
But also accurate. I mean, he really was killed for what he did. His wife was killed. But there's also a lot of speculation around that. Was that really what sent him like into fighting for freedom? Or was he already fighting for freedom and then she got killed? And then obviously the whole thing with the princess completely made up. They were like never came close to in contact and were, I think, very different in age. I think he had another like someone like just as important as him almost that was like with him the whole time. I can't remember who, but I don't think they're in the movie. I'd have to go fact check that one though. So if you can fact check me on that, let me know. Tweet at me. Us. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I think he took a lot of liberties. And even the part with them having the really long spears, I think there was a battle that was similar to that, but even that, it was different. I think they made giant circles and not just one long line and just little things here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you just have the main idea of, hey, William Wallace was a figure who fought for freedom in Scotland against the English and then died for it. And then kind of just, and the other facts, his wife really was killed, things like that. But they just kind of then put down how they thought it went.
Yeah. Yeah. So like all those things you listed, those were like bullet points. And I feel like those are the important things of the story, the actual historical events. And so everything in between, make it up. That if you're making a movie, keep the important things and make up the rest and make it make sense. Like, I think that's a great way to approach it. It's the same thing, like Aaron Sorkin totally crafted what happened in The Social Network. He took the fact that there were lawsuits about the creation of Facebook and then made up everything else. Like, Mark Zuckerberg was dating the girl that he's married to when he started Facebook, whereas in the movie, it's sort of the whole thing that starts the chain of events is that he gets dumped by his girlfriend. So obviously that's completely created for the movie, and it works. It gives the character motivation that he might not have had, quote unquote, in the real world or whatever. So yeah, like I think to translate some stories into a movie, you got to take liberties and make it work for the sake of movies. Whereas like there are some things like The People versus O.J. Simpson, which is a great miniseries. That I think works because a trial is a great thing to portray in film and television. That's why it has been so many times, is because there are sort of natural plot points. There's a hearing, there's a trial, there's a conviction. It makes sense. There are natural plot points and things you can base it on. So some stories are more naturally inclined to be adapted, while others, I think, you got to sort of nudge them in the right direction.
I'd agree. And when you said trial, I had already been thinking before. I was like, man, like court scenes though are so good in movies, even when they're like real, based on real events. They're still so interesting. Mm-hmm. So I like that you like mentioned that you can see the specific plot points in like a real trial. Yeah. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, it totally makes sense that there's so many of them and how they work really, really well.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you want the full O.J. Simpson story, the miniseries still isn't really that great at it. It's like this amazing drama, and it is what it is. But if you want like the full story, then there's the 3-hour documentary series, O.J. Made in America, that came out around the same time, so you get the full O.J. picture. It's like, if people want like complete realism, then they just need to make documentaries. If you want good stories, then they have to be a little more fictional.
Yeah, and I agree. Because it's just weird to capture a moment in someone's life.
Yeah.
Rather than... Because that moment could have also affected so many other parts of that person's life, other people's life. It could just have so many greater impacts and lesser impacts that we don't see. While a story you're crafting, even if it's historically based and you have plot points, you can still fill in the rest with just what we naturally want to see as humans. Just this like kind of 3-act. It doesn't always have to be 3-act, but just like a beginning, a middle, and an end, essentially.
Yeah.
Which that's still there in even ones that are very like rigorously to the T facts historically, but it's just harder. You kind of have to like force it in. So I think I'm with you that I like it when more liberties are taken with historical films rather than just going by the T.
Yeah.
Well, you got anything else?
I don't think so. I got some more movies on this list, but I think I said it all.
Yeah. Yep.
It's interesting though. I mean, there was a point in time where I was watching all these movies. Like I watched Sully, Concussion, and Everest right around the same time, and I just kept thinking, like, why don't I like these movies more? Because they're solid. they're really good. But what is it about them that I just don't capture my attention? I think that's what it is. They were a little too true to what happened.
And see, here's the thing. I haven't even seen any of those 3 movies, so I guess I'm a little biased as well. They just don't interest me at all.
Of the 3, I would recommend Sully.
Yeah, I've heard Sully's really good. And I think my dad and my brother watched it the other day and really liked it too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I certainly don't think any of those 3 are bad. But
yeah,
they're just like, you know.
I mean, not me either, but I haven't heard any, like, I haven't heard they're bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm never interested in something that's very based on reality.
Mm-hmm.
But it's whatever. Sometimes I watch those movies and end up enjoying them anyways.
Yeah.
The Big Short, you know.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Although it was in the same boat. I was not excited when it first came out and didn't see it when it first came out. It was just on Netflix one day and I watched it and I was like, it wasn't that bad. But still not my favorite.
Sure. That makes sense. I mean, I think my, like, if you want to go back and listen to that Big Short episode, you can. But I think my general consensus was what I love about that movie is the creative liberties it took in terms of style.
Yeah.
The way that story is told is amazing.
Yeah.
So maybe it's pretty true and accurate in that regard. I think it makes up for it with fantastic performances in this really creative movie.
Yeah. And they even like point out in specific scenes where they're taking liberties. That's true. They had a whole scene that happened, and then either during the scene or after the scene, it said something to the effect of, this isn't actually what happened. They just happened to email each other and got together. It wasn't as dramatic as we just made it or whatever. And I was like, that's awesome. And it's like, we need that. We there's too many parts in real life that are just monotonous and not as dramatic as we want them to be in a movie.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot about that. That's awesome.
All right. Was that about it?
I think so. Let's wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate it. If you want to keep supporting the podcast, it'd be great if you could share this podcast with a friend. Send it their way. Send them a link. Tweet it out. Whatever you want to do. That would be awesome. We would love to get some new listeners onto this thing and spread our little network here. So that'd be awesome. Tune in next week for The Matrix Reloaded. And you did not mishear me. We're talking about the second one. So that'll be a fun one. Tune in for that. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
See y'all. I almost started singing it. I finally remembered it. In the dark of the night, people turn. I don't even remember the lyrics. In the dark of the night, evil will pray. But I just love the part where he goes. My favorite part is when he's like, "Nope, gone." It's apparently not my favorite part. Oh yeah, and he's like, "And the revenge will be sweet when the curse is complete." This is my favorite part of probably the whole movie. So.
That's amazing.
Ugh.